Behind me, as you can see, is what I consider as Exhibit A. It is a page 13 service record book entry that currently being given to Navy reservists, asking them to acknowledge that they will not get points for the time they were dropped, discharged, or otherwise prohibited from participating because of being unvaccinated. But it is also threatening that if they don't come back, they can have adverse administrative actions taken against them. This question is to you, Vice Admiral. By what authority is the Navy threatening adverse actions against the people it forced out in order to force them to come back in?
Congressman, thanks for that question. I'm not familiar with that specific page 13 there, but I'll talk to you in general. There is no authority for adverse actions right now because of the vaccine mandate and the rescission of that said vaccine mandate. In fact, we have taken painstaking efforts to go through our sailors' records to make sure that we've removed negative connotations from their records. And as a measure going forward for selection boards and promotion boards, we have guidance there that no negative indications because of COVID should be considered. Sir.
And this is for everyone. We know how important, and I'm prior military as well, had spent time with the United States Army, was a proud combat veteran out of the 82nd. And I thank you all for your service and your time today. We know how important our reentry codes are when it comes to our DD-214. And many of our service members who, in my opinion, were unconstitutionally purged out of our military, up to the 8,400 personnel, were receiving things like Code 3s and Code 4s. And we know the difficulty and, in some cases, the absolute refusal to allow them to enter back into service. What are we doing to correct and change that? I'll start with you, Lieutenant General Douglas.
Representative Mills, thank you for the question. Thank you for your service. If there is an individual who is separated under the auspice of COVID-19, that individual is allowed to pursue reentry by contacting their local recruiter or pursuing reentry through the Army Board of Correction of Military Records.
Congressman, similar question for the Navy. Any prior service sailor can petition to have the record changed through the BCNR process, and once complete, they can attempt reentry to the service by contacting their local recruiter, sir.
Yes, sir. It's very similar for the Air Force. We've identified all the individuals that were separated with for COVID and for the vaccine, and we've reached out to them so that they can come back through the BCMR process as well.
Congressman, same process I just highlight for the Marine Corps. We were very intentional about the assignment of that RE code so that it highlighted what it was for and gives clarity to the process of what has to be changed.
Sir, I would tell you the Space Force did not separate any Guardians solely for COVID vaccination. However, we would follow the same process that the Air Force does.
Go Guardians. All right, moving on. So, did the DoD or your individual service perform any studies or analysis of the number of service members who would refuse to take the mRNA product based on religious or medical objections? Is there any study conducted as a result of that? Because, and here's the reason I asked this question. The DoD Inspector General said that on average, the time taken to determine whether or not a person qualified for medical or religious exemption was 12 minutes. And in my opinion, do you feel that you could determine a person's religious or medical exemption within 12 minutes? We'll start with you, Lieutenant General Stitt.
Representative Mills, I am unaware of the DoD survey that you are referencing. I know that within the Army, we handled and looked at each individual exemption case, medical or religious, on a case-by-case, individual-by-individual basis.
Well, I can tell you right now, having worked for the government, we don't do anything in 12 minutes. So that's probably one of the rapidest time, and I would advise you all to please look at this DoD Inspector General write-up that's very clearly stating that these were decisions made within 12 minutes. And I don't consider that to be a subsequent amount of time to vet a person's religious or medical reasoning for exemptions. I want to say for the record as well, how many of you would support, and I'll do this quick in the 10 seconds, re-entry back into the military for those unconstitutionally purged out with back pay, full benefits, and their ability to finally serve their United States military as opposed to any political agenda? I'll start with you, Lieutenant General Glenn.
Sir, in terms of reentry, we addressed that. Part of it, the back pay would be a decision not made by a service.
But is it something that you would support for those who want to continue their service and that was unconstitutionally purged?
I support them coming back in.
Lieutenant General Miller?
I support them coming back in through the process.
Vice Admiral?
Congressman, same thing. I support the BCNR process and their ability to come back in should it be adjudicated as such.
And Lieutenant General?
Supportive through the BCMR process.
Well, I hope you guys do, and I look forward to trying to help work with my colleagues and with our chairman to get legislation in place that will actually allow that to happen so people can finally come back and serve our military, hopefully filling the ranks of the 25,000 plus recruitment shortage that we have today that, in my opinion, is partially due to the morale drop and the DEI that has been implemented as opposed to increased lethality. With that, I yield back.